You are in the yard where faith and sports collide. I'm Marcus Preciado, the host, and today we have Stanford wide receiver slash kicker and my son, Diego Preciado. Diego, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, happy to be here. You kind of made me, but it's all good.
That's all right. You told him if you don't clean your room, you got to be on the yard. If he didn't clean his room, so this is what happens. And as always, our lovely and talented co-host, Jefferson Drexler. How you doing, Jefferson?
Hey guys, Diego, it's so awesome to finally get you here in the yard, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome.
Way too long.
Yeah.
I can't believe you guys haven't met. So when he came in,
know, right?
it's crazy because he sees you all the time, you see him. So I'm glad you guys could
But I
connect.
saw him way back in the day when he was still like
in high school.
playing for classical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's like I was a fanboy even before he had fans.
Show the gear you're representing right there.
Oh yeah. So this is for my Caymans.
Yep, Classical
We
Academy High
represent not just for Diego, but also sadly for the Cayman water polo team that got postponed allegedly until next spring. But we're keeping our fingers crossed, and if nothing else, the boys are doing a lot of surfing.
Good.
Yeah. So Jefferson is wearing the Classical Academy Caymans gear. That's the high school which I got to coach. While Diego was playing there, that's the high school Diego went to. But without further ado, Diego, this was going to happen.
All right.
We're going to play a little game of cornhole.
Okay.
I'm probably going to beat you.
All right, I'm fine with
Right,
that.
like I did with you growing up.
Okay.
Right, when you didn't listen to me. And then...
I thought you meant be like in cornhole.
Go get a
We didn't really play this when we were little.
No, like with the belt.
Yeah, I remember that.
We're going to play this, talk a little bit of sports, talk
All
a
right.
bit about your life, get to know you, let the people get to know you. And then we're going to come back and talk about faith and sports colliding in your world. But
Sounds good.
As the guest, why don't you go first, Diego?
All right, let's go. Oh,
Okay,
wasn't
okay.
great. Wasn't great.
Okay, so to set the rules, on board, right, Jefferson, is 1 point.
Right.
And then in the hole is
3
3.
points. All right.
And we'll go to 21.
Yep.
All
Got
right,
it.
good.
Unless he goes over 21.
Then we got to
right?
restart.
That if he goes over 21, he has to go back to 15. If
You want to do that? You want to go just
no,
first
no,
to reach
that's
21?
way complicated.
He's just mad because he's gonna do that and he's gonna be all mad.
Especially with the Stanford kid here who's got some crazy algorithm on throwing. Let's just keep it San Diego State level
There we
math.
go.
Like, just pluses. Right? That's it. Here we
No
go.
minus. No minus.
Oh,
That's
okay,
not-
okay.
It's not too shabby.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's not even close, Diego. That's not even close. All right.
All right, 3.
Here we go.
Come on, old man.
Come on. All right,
All right,
2 to 3.
That's 2-3.
All right.
Have you seen those guys who are like professionals at this?
Oh, yeah.
They put some crazy spin on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That is, Jefferson and I talk about that all the time. Like, what's sadder that there's professional cornholers
Or there's people who watch it.
or that we watch
Yeah.
it. But obviously you're at Stanford right now.
Mm-hmm.
It was a dream of yours, Diego. But before that, you grew up playing all kinds of sports like
Yes.
most typical kids. Walk us through kind of what growing up in the Preciado home was like on the sports tip.
Right, so Mom always said that I was shooting basketballs before I could walk. I'd be sitting down. You guys had a little tyke hoop for me. So I was just, sitting down, shooting baskets for a while. The first sport I ever played, like recreationally with a team was, I believe it was soccer when I think I was like 5 years old. Is that right? 5 or 6?
Yeah, but let's put a pause in there.
Yeah.
So Jefferson, literally when Diego is not even walking and barely talking, his first big word was basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Basketball.
not father, and it was basketball. And his famous thing with his mom was "Watch me," like "Watch me, mom, watch me, mom." And I don't know if it's the little OCD that you have in you or whatever, but hours in front of the hoop, basketball. So we knew from a get-go that you liked sports,
Right.
and that you liked basketball apparently more than your father at that time. Boom, get in there.
Dang, that was a nice
Okay,
shot.
that's awesome. So let's add it up, Stanford.
Okay, so I had 3, now I got 4. You had 2, right?
Yeah, and
so you
now I
got
have-
4 plus 3, 7.
plus 3.
Yeah, because you got 2 on, and then 4 is what you had, including those 2 on the bags.
Okay.
Then
7.
with that one, then 1 and 3.
Perfect.
7.
All right, good.
Yeah, 7-4.
Thanks for grabbing the.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Bags.
You can't really bend down too much.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Old guy
Diego. So Diego was grabbing the bags from me because I explained to him sometimes, unfortunately, when I bend over, I show my crack.
Yep.
So today, No crack. Just Diego doing it and then grabbing the.
I think we were talking about this earlier, though. We need a camera right there, so it's just for your crack. Like when you walk over and bend down, it's literally just for that.
We're not going to do crack
This
cam,
is a
Diego.
family show, bro.
We're not doing crack cam. Your mom's
you
watching
gotta
this.
keep it interesting.
Your mom's watching this.
All right.
So what's the score again?
It is 7-4.
I
You
knew
guys got to
that.
keep track of your own.
No, I knew that.
right.
I just wanted him
Keep
to
it in
hear
mind.
that
You wanna
see
I'm
if I'm
winning.
lying.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he's
All
trying
right.
to remind me
All
that
right,
he's
keep
winning.
going.
But in terms of sports, we were talking about the first sport I ever played, like recreationally with the team, was soccer. 5 or 6 years old. I was pretty good at it. Dad also used to make highlights for me using the Rocky soundtrack, which was pretty funny. Those are still really fun to go back to watch. But yeah, loved soccer. Still love soccer. Played that all the way up until high school. But yeah, sports were always a huge part of being in the Preciado family.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's add them up.
Yeah, okay, so I had 4, right? Plus 3 is 7. Plus 2 for you is 9. Plus 3 is 12.
Perfect.
7 and
12 to 7. All right.
Good catch, that's 3.
Thank you. Thank you.
So how does somebody who grew up playing soccer and devoted himself so much to soccer, but loved basketball first, end up with a football jersey?
Because I wanted to make my dad proud. I played football in 7th grade, hated it. And Dad knew that I was out there because, I wanted to try football, but mainly because, hey, Dad played football in college. I want to be a football player too. After that 7th grade year, it was a little tough. I didn't do great. It wasn't terrible, but, I couldn't tackle. I didn't like football that much at that point. But after that, Dad's like, you don't need to play football anymore. Just go do what you want. And then it came time for my 2nd season, my 8th grade year. And it came around, all my buddies asked, like, hey, you playing football? And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll play again. But that year, I started to tackle a little bit better, had a little bit more of a fun time, got pretty fast. I was always fast, but I started learning my routes, learning the playbook, and got pretty good at football. So after 8th grade, decided to just keep going with it in high school, and it turned out pretty well. Okay, so you had 2 on, right?
I had 2 on.
You were at 12.
Yeah.
That's 14.
14.
I had 7. Now I only have 8. I'm a little distracted.
Perfect. So when he mentioned Jefferson, after his 7th grade, I told him he didn't need to play anymore. I wasn't trying to be a good daddy. I just wanted him to stop embarrassing me out in the football.
That's it, yeah. What he meant was please stop playing.
Yeah,
That's
so
really what he
please
said.
go back to
You
soccer.
don't have to embarrass me anymore.
All kidding aside, your first year of football
Rough.
was rough.
Yeah.
But I was proud of you because you finished, and I personally wanted you to stick with soccer.
Right.
I used to always tell you dummies play football.
Yeah.
Right, and you were on a great trajectory in soccer. Share with us about kind of right before high school,
Right.
when you finished your club soccer, what that year looked like and the opportunity to compete for a national championship.
Right. So I played with a club called San Diego Soccer Club. I was on there. I believe it was called Flight 1 developmental team. So it was kind of like the top tier in terms of club soccer. And we went through a bunch of qualifying tournaments, National Cup, State Cup, won all of those, and eventually you got an invitation to play in the Youth Soccer National Championship, which is like the official national championship of all youth soccer. So that was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I think I was like 14 at the time.
Yeah.
So that was my first time ever really being on a plane away from you guys by myself.
Yes.
Got some brand new cleats from Memi, who hooked me up. Memi is my aunt. So I was looking really cool, feeling really cool. Those games were actually televised nationally, which was really cool. Ended up earning a starting spot. Sorry, switch that colors. At midfielder, I believe. Played pretty well. We ended up taking 3rd in the whole tournament. I have a pretty cool bronze medal from that. Should have brought it in, but it was a great experience. It was kind of my first experience playing at that high stress of stakes, because even though there wasn't many people there watching, just knowing that it was being televised and people there with cameras and being away from my family, playing only at like 14, that was kind of the first big game I ever played not having family there. It was interesting, but super awesome. It was a really cool experience.
So he mentioned his cleats, Jefferson, which is kind of important because my philosophy on cleats for my kids and equipment is just the bare minimum of what you need.
Right.
So
It's always just like
all his
$20
clubs,
ones.
teams, they had kids literally with cleats with $300 or more.
Yeah.
They'd get new ones every season. We'd go get our coupons, get the cheapest Nikes that functioned, but maybe pay $30 for them, and they would complain now and then.
So you didn't make him just put thumbtacks in his kids?
Nah, sometimes.
I would tell them, look, which cleats are scoring the goals?
Yeah.
The $30 cleats. So let's stick with the $30 cleats. But so when he went to the national championship, your tia, your aunt bought you some Jordan
some crazy ones.
Some Jordan cleats that were awesome.
Yeah, they were a mix. It was a Jordan Neymar cleat, so it was like a collaboration between the two individual brands, and they were ridiculous. They were all white with like some orange stripe, and my club team colors were orange and blue, so it fit it perfectly. It was really cool. Some awesome cleats.
So what made you transition with having such a great success? I mean, finishing third in the nation at soccer at 14, that's a good track to be on. Your academics were solid, starting to get interest from schools.
Right.
Obviously, you're tracking to do something significant in soccer. Why football? Why did you switch?
I think football was new. Football is something that I hadn't always been good at, and getting good at it felt really cool to me because I'd always been great at soccer. Soccer had always been second nature to me. Like I think the first time I ever played, I was like, yeah, I'm good at this.
Yeah, your name is Diego.
Yeah, you can't have much better of a
Right,
soccer name than
that
than
comes with a certain amount of talent in the
right.
soccer world.
Yeah, but I think getting good at football was something that was a really good feeling to me because it was something that I started very bad at. And not that I didn't have the aptitude for it, I just didn't have the mentality for it. So I think developing as a football player was something at the time was more enticing to me than staying a good soccer player. So I still played soccer throughout high school. I think we talk a little bit more about that later, just kind of like the whole high school sports experience. But I think what drew me more towards football at that time was getting good at it and figuring out, hey, I could do something with this, or hey, I could play football at the next level, or at least saying, hey, I want to play football at the next level, even at a young age, like freshman year.
So what about being at a school that was a great school?
Right.
And is a great school. For all you guys in the classical academy system, amazing school. Jefferson's family's there.
Yep.
We love it academically. I mean, it's all of our kids have gone there. Now, one drawback at that time as a father was you have a kid that potentially can play at the next level, and not potentially, can, and is not in a system that typically is sending kids to Division I. So as a father, you're going,
the way that I put it often, especially even from a water polo point of view, is not only do the San Diego Tribune or the LA Times, they don't really cover classical.
Right. Yeah.
The Escondido Fish Wrap doesn't even put
that was
classical scores, right?
Yeah. So there's that tension. I know you feel as a father too. Like, do you uproot your kid and put them in a sports machine where you get all that value and sacrifice all the other stuff? So for us, Diego, was like, we didn't want to uproot you from this amazing program with an amazing superintendent, principal, athletic director, coach, and peers to put you on a track to play football.
Right.
So share with us just kind of how it felt to, develop a name for yourself in a school that typically didn't provide a pipeline to bigger Division I schools.
Right, yeah. I think one of the biggest things was because it was such a tiny school. That's 15 now.
All right.
Because you had 12, I had 8, 9.
Good. How much you have?
I have 9 now that I got that one.
How much do I have?
15.
Oh, okay.
All right, do you want me to say it again?
No, we're good. I just want to double check.
But I think one of the biggest things about being at such a small school was when I told people what I wanted to do, so many kids are like, okay, like, cool, you want to go play at Stanford? So does everybody else. Like, no one thought a kid, not necessarily me, but no one thought a kid from classical could really do that, especially classical kids. I mean, at the time, we were only Division V for football. Like, we'd be lucky to beat our rival high school, let alone send a kid to a next level at D3, D2, anything like that. So, just not a lot of people thought I could do it. I can't blame them because not a lot of people at that level do it. I know, you just got that in there. So that's another 3, that's 18?
Yeah, that's all. I just want all 3 of mine went in, though.
Gotcha.
Ace.
All 3 just went in there?
All 3.
Dang, that might be, I think that's 21.
That's 21.
That's 21,
game.
baby. That's 21.
I'm going to pick these up anyway. But, being in a small school, no one really thought I could do it. And got to be honest with you, sometimes that made me think, maybe I can't do it. Like, I'm at such a small school. But my freshman year, you want to just put those there?
Yeah.
I came in, I was kind of just planning on maybe just kicking, just wanted to be there to, play with some kids over there that I knew, kids from 8th grade, kids from middle school who were going to be playing football. Just really wanted to be out there to hang out with them. I heard the coach was cool. I ended up signing up really late, like 2 weeks late, and the coach only let me play that year because he had heard good things from me from those other kids.
Yeah.
Because I was a nice kid, whatever, kind of athletic.
Yeah.
But decided to go out there. Tried for kicker a little bit, was pretty good. Did pretty good. At running back for the freshman team, we played St. Augustine. I think I scored like 3 or 4 times against their freshman team. And right after that, the coach said, all right, we're pulling up to varsity. Just because he saw that I could do something, and being at such a small school, they didn't want to have a kid who can play really well, helping out the freshman team. They got to help the varsity team. So being brought up my freshman year was really cool. Ended up playing not as much wide receiver that year, but defensive back, a little bit of kick return, punt return, kicker and punter as well. So yeah, from very early on, I knew that I was going to be kind of a key component of this team. And I just really had fun that year. So
as a dad, Diego, you would think, okay, your freshman kid starts on varsity, and you're excited about that. And there's certainly that component of it. But I can tell you, Diego, I was so nervous and so scared. And frankly, I don't know if I wanted you to start. And I think your first start, or at least the first time you went as a defensive back,
La Jolla Country Day.
It was La Jolla Country Day. And at that point, they had the best
Braxton
quarterback in San Diego, went to Oregon, and they were a powerhouse. And now you have little skinny 14-year-old Diego.
125 pounds.
This is
soaking wet.
This is pre-afro Diego.
Yeah, pre-afro.
Right? So he didn't even have the afro weight. Right? And he's out there, Jefferson. I'm like, Lord, I'm not praying that he does well. I'm praying that you keep him safe.
Yes.
Seriously, that was my prayer. I don't care how he responds out there. Can he finish this game in one piece? And that's how it was for most of your freshman year. And of course, as a sophomore, you get bigger, and you have a dominating junior year and a fantastic senior year. That you started to make waves in San Diego, won a very prestigious award, and now you're tracking kind of like the Be Relevant, but still, how did you get on the radar of schools like Stanford, Harvard, Princeton, Rice, Columbia, San Diego State, UC Davis?
Right.
What was the process like for you, and how did it feel?
So I think it was around sophomore year I kind of figured out, I'm doing pretty good at the positions I'm playing. I'm a three-way starter. I'm pretty competitive. I want to play at the next level. So a big thing was that you taught me was to be proactive with reaching out to schools. So I wasn't waiting necessarily for them to contact me. I came up with a template, like email, that you helped me write, that I would send to 15, 20, 30 different coaches and just say, hey, so-and-so, I'd fill in the name of the name in the blank, right? I'd give them my stats. I'd give them a link to my highlight reel. I keep it short and sweet. And that way they don't have to go sifting through everything. And it would just tell them who I am as a person, who I am as a student, who I am as an athlete, why I think I fit well in their program. So I sent that to probably 30 different coaches. And you know what? Only 2 or 3 got back to me. But I kept the relationships with those 2 or 3 at the time, my sophomore year. Going into my junior year, had a pretty good season, 6 or 7 games worth. And then I had a pretty bad injury. I broke my ankle, I think, just clean. Our practice facilities weren't the best. Stepped in a gopher hole. Freak accident. Nothing special, just running down on kickoff in practice. So that kind of that hurt me a little bit, because junior year is really that year where a lot of offers start to come in and you kind of establish yourself as a player and as a recruit. So I really worked very hard to get back to normal with that. And I worked hard enough to play the soccer season actually in that same year and play like the last 3 games of playoffs, which was pretty cool. But in terms of getting on bigger schools' radars, like let's say San Diego State, Rice, Stanford, it was really getting to camps in the off season, whether that was the opening camps. Specifically, it was the camps that those colleges would hold for their bigger recruits, because I had pretty good film. My junior year, I made a couple of big runs, a couple of big plays, but it was always against smaller teams, right? And it was these teams that the coaches say, hey, this play's good, but like, who are you playing against? Right. So being at these camps gave me the opportunity to compete against guys who they know the caliber of athlete that they were. And let's say, there was a 4 or 5-star recruit there, whatever, it was me going up against that guy that they knew who he was as an athlete. And it gave me the opportunity to prove how I was as an athlete in my position and who I could compete against. And I'm not just a kid who's putting up good film against chump teams. I'm a guy who can do it against the same guys at different camps. So the biggest one for me was that Stanford camp that I went to my junior year, summer going into my senior year. Did pretty well. Receivers coach pulled me aside like mid-drills, mid-one-on-ones, like, who are you? Like, why don't I know your name? Give me your contact info. Stay afterwards. We're gonna, tour you around the campus. He told me essentially, I want you to be here, which is pretty cool to hear. So that was awesome. So the biggest component of getting bigger schools' attention on me was getting to those camps in the off season.
Yeah, I liked how you were really proactive with it. Mm-hmm. And of course, I tried to point you in the right direction, but it was your efforts on the field.
Right.
It was your stats. It was you that were getting to know.
Right.
And that was a fun project to kind of do together. Mm-hmm. But it was your efforts to be able to do that. And Jefferson, man, one of my favorite times with him before he headed off to college was at the Stanford camp, which was kind of the culmination of his dream. After his 7th grade year, he wrote Stanford on a note card, and he put it on his mirror. And every day he could either dream or pray about reaching that goal. And I remember having conversations with you, Diego, about Stanford when he said, Dad, I want to play football at Stanford. I go, oh, okay, well, let's have a conversation. There's 2 things here. There's playing football at Division I, and look at you, son.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Look at you, Diego. You're a soccer player.
Yeah.
And look at your frame. So let's have an honest conversation. And then let's have an honest conversation about Stanford.
Right.
So we had an honest conversation about football at that level. The chances statistically of playing Division I,
right,
less than 2%. So I mean, the chances aren't good, son. That's just Division I football, let alone a Pac-12 team.
Right.
So now that 2% dwindles down. So the chances were astronomical. And then, okay, so let's talk about as well Stanford. So at that time, and every year it's either Stanford or Harvard that's battling for the most competitive school academically. And I said, hey, this 5% acceptance rate isn't 5% of all the kids.
Right.
This is 5% of the kids who are applying, and those 5% of the kids are kind of the top 3%.
Right.
So the chances of you playing football at Pac-12, son, are slim to none. And the chances of you attending Stanford are slim to none. And the chances of those 2 things colliding are exponentially more difficult. But I told him, but God.
Yeah.
That was the biggest component. Because you always told me, the biggest thing you always said is, I'm not telling you this to discourage you. I'm telling you this so you know the work you have to do in order to get there. And not only that, but to know that you're not going to get there by yourself. Because look at this. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm a soccer player at heart. And when you look at me and my build and everything like that, I'm not your typical football player. Like, people would see me, I can walk around in all the gear I want, and people probably think I'm someone's like little brother or something on the team.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I always remember you just telling me, just, you can do it, but it's not going to be just you. Yeah. You got to do your part, but it's getting there is not going to be just you.
Yeah.
And I remember that was one of the biggest things you used to stress.
Hey, someone has to go there, right?
Yeah.
Someone, and for those of you guys listen, whatever your dreams are, someone needs to accomplish those dreams, right? And God is bigger than COVID, is bigger than your financial state, is bigger than the rough circumstances you have right now, is bigger than your health, is bigger than the rough relationship you may be in with a family member. But God, and we're living proof that God answered those prayers. And you know, you're now going into your sophomore year. Pretty funky time.
Very funky time.
Right?
Yeah.
Jefferson, you had any questions from him? Kind of, I've been hogging it just kind of as somebody perceiving and been following Diego and what's going on with college. Right. And
I mean, just as a sports fan, I'm really curious to what was it like, or what is it like when you were called to come on up, report, we got camp starting, to then where are you staying? What's the COVID risk? What? And then all of a sudden you get a call saying, yeah, Pac-12's delaying our season, and you know, for all we know, it may or may not happen. I mean, what's going through your head, through your regiment? I know that athletes at your level are kind of regimented.
Right.
So what's that like?
Yeah, it was a much different approach this year than it was last year. I think one thing that was very different is right away when I was there, I was interacting with a bunch of different guys, whether it was in team meetings or, you know, just in the weights and the lifts and everything like that. It was a lot of guys together doing everything. We're in their meetings with 100+ guys. When I show up this year, I don't meet any of the new freshmen because they're all staying in different hotel rooms. And we have these things called functional groups, right? Where it's 10 to 12 kids at a time do specific things together. So you can only get food with these 10 to 12 kids. You can only lift with these 10 to 12 kids. You can only do your conditioning circuits with these 10 to 12 kids. And these are all guys I know already. So I wasn't getting to interact with new players. You know, you can't develop relationships as well because you're kind of apart from most of your team. You just have a little fraction of guys who you probably don't even know super well because they're not all your position. It's just guys who are clumped together doing all their stuff together. So it was much different this year than it really has been ever before. So I really just had to tell myself day after day, like, just go with it. Like, you know, it's new times. Everyone's kind of going through the same thing right now. Can't complain because you know, my circumstances aren't different than anyone else's at this level or anyone else's on this team. So it was just very interesting to be there. We weren't even housed on campus. We were all living in hotel rooms because the school, I don't know why, I can't speak as to why, but the school decided it'd be best to have us in hotel rooms. Probably just to keep us apart, keep us on in a nice place to stay. But yeah, it was very, very interesting times. And then kind of just, you know, the workouts and everything leading up towards those days of the decision, guys were just, you know, very curious as to what was going to happen, and then whether or not we'd be all staying on campus if it got delayed, or if it was going to be canceled, or if we were going to go straight forward and right into the season with it. So really, we were finding out everything at the same pace that you guys were. We didn't hear weeks in advance, hey, we're going to cancel or anything like that. We heard the same day that everyone else did. So we were kind of reacting at the same time that everyone else was. So it was very interesting.
You know, within this story of playing or being part of a team in the COVID era, we've bypassed a very important fact in this that we haven't even talked about much, even personally with friends or social media, not because we wanted to avoid it, just because it's been such a small blip. Like Diego came down with COVID. Mm-hmm. So in the middle of all the craziness,
Still alive.
Still alive. It's crazy. It's crazy how it works.
Right? And so as he went to Stanford, he tested the first time, tested negative, mm-hmm. and the next test the following week, Jefferson tested positive for COVID. So we get a call from Diego, and then we get to talk to team doctors. By the way, I want to say this too. As much as Classical Academy was amazing for our family and amazing scholastically and offered everything we wanted and more, and thank you, Classical, he went from Classical to Stanford. Stanford, Jefferson, every step of the way, rewinding from the recruiting process to the follow-up to the visit, has been nothing but first class. Mm-hmm. I mean, and Diego got the blessing to be recruited by Harvard, Rice, Princeton, Columbia, you know, some great schools, and got to experience that. And Stanford, you are amazing. The school, every coach, every doctor, and the same thing happened when COVID came. You know, we got to talk to team reps, doctors, explain the situation. And, you know, it's kind of your worst fear as a parent to send them off and get COVID, but we kind of prepped ourselves for it.
Right.
Right. We had a conversation beforehand. Diego expected to get COVID.
Yeah.
There's that risk, but don't put your dreams aside for this chance that you may get COVID. So
right.
He got COVID, asymptomatic, right? Had to do the quarantine. Did that. That was a tough part, mm-hmm. right? But then got tested again, was negative. So through this all, he's gone through the dreaded COVID. Now, not to deny that others have had some real rough times with it, mm-hmm. but fortunately for us, Diego was asymptomatic, a small blip, and something that could have been so full of fear, Jefferson, as a parent. Mm-hmm. Having your kid far off with COVID was something where we could just trust God, and he had zero symptoms other than complaining a little bit. So
that's just being a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're very thankful for that, and thank you for Stanford, for every coach, for every doctor, for everybody that's been part of the team. How you treated our son, it's been amazing. So now you're in a funky spot, but I know you're trusting God through it. Mm-hmm. And some sort of the silver linings has been, we've got more time with you as a family.
Right.
Right. You've spent more time with your friends, more time for you to yell at your little brother.
It's true. Yes.
Right?
It's always a bonus.
More time to grow your afro.
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit about your afro.
Yeah. You know what?
What's your thought? What's your thought process with your current hair situation?
Well, when I first went up to school, there's not like a Great Clips anything up there. There's nowhere like you can just go to get your hair cut. So usually someone on the team has to do it. And I was just like, you know what? Maybe this is the time I'm going to try to grow it out, because I've never really had it more than just barely fingers length. But I was just up there, and then I was there like 7 months and I had no haircut, and it was just like this, and I was like, I kind of like it. It's something different, something new I was trying to try when I went up there, and especially because like in warm-ups you can wear like a headband and have this like super awesome hair, which is definitely very awesome.
Yeah, it's
in
good
warm-ups.
to have super awesome hair.
Yeah, but I like it. It feels nice on my helmet. It was just kind of a decision I made. Like, I guess I'll grow it out for a little bit and I'll get it cut like, when it gets too big. But Yeah, just something different we always tried. We always used to give me buzz cuts. He used to pay me like $5. He's like, look, a haircut's 15. I'll give you 5 if you let me just buzz it. I'd be like, okay.
That's right.
So up until probably like my freshman year, I'd always just show up like with buzz cuts. So something different.
He always looked like a little refugee kid from somewhere that we were sponsoring, and he finally came to visit us when I cut his hair. But, hey, save $10, so it's worth it. Hey, well, Diego, you know what? We're excited for you as a dad. Of course, you know that I'm so proud of you, love you so much, and love supporting you on what God has for you. I also don't ever want you to forget this. I kicked your butt right there in this competition.
Yeah, you did.
I destroyed you, so
true.
don't ever forget that. But we're going to be right back with the second half of the show and talk to Diego about how faith and sports have collided in his world. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the yard where faith and sports collide. We're here once again with Stanford wide receiver / kicker, my son, Diego Preciado. Diego, thank you so much, man.
Of course, yeah. Awesome to be here.
I really appreciate you joining us here today. Hey, this is my favorite part of the show, Diego. This is where we talk about how faith and sports have collided in your world. So tell me how faith and sports has been a part of your world and how they've collided.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but one of the things that was always pushed into me in terms of when I had communicated with you that I wanted to play football and I wanted to play at Stanford, you would always tell me, you know, how difficult it's going to be. And the main thing that you were trying to stress is not that you can't do it, but it's that you can't do it on your own. So I think one of the biggest components of me dreaming to play at Stanford was also believing enough that God would help me get there and that I can't do it on my own. Yeah. So I think before that, though, or after that actually, was my junior year. We talked about this as well, breaking my ankle. That hurt a lot because, like we said, junior year is really the time where your offers start to roll in, where you kind of make a name for yourself as a player, and then you build up hype for yourself for your senior year. But for me, I lost the entirety of the second half of that season, and it really hurt me because I couldn't be the guy. So much of my identity was in me as a football player at that time, and it was like, what do I do now? Like, I'm stuck in a cast, limping around campus on these crutches, and I just felt stupid because people only really viewed me as the football kid, and I only viewed myself as the football kid. So having that completely removed from my life was difficult because I had to find, like, what am I going to do now? What's my pastime? And I knew it wasn't a long-term thing, but it hurt in that moment a lot. Sure. So one of the big things during that was I had always attended the Bible studies after practices, but during that time I had more time to pour into the Bible studies and actually started leading them. So starting my junior year, I started leading Bible studies after the football practices. It was probably 15, 20 guys we started with, probably ended with 10 to 15 guys. Kids came when they can, but I really thought that I did my best to really pour into other people during that time rather than to sit and like, my season's gone. I can't do anything. My ankle's broken. It was more, okay, you know what? My part of this season is done. What can I do now to shift my focus to other people? And it took me a few weeks to get there because at first it was like, oh, my team's done. I'm the star player, blah, blah, blah. I should be playing this role and whatever. But it really gave me the opportunity to take my eyes off of myself and say, how can I help my team? I'm going to be the best water boy I can be. I'm going to start leading these Bible studies. I'm going to, engage with players off the field more. I'm going to check in on my teammates and see how they're doing. So I think that time really gave me a lot of time to take my eyes off myself and stop having, that pity for myself and staying in that and give me an opportunity to look into other people and see how I can pour into them.
Yeah, that's very cool that you learned that early on. That not to place your identity in sports. Right. And you're in a great spot right now. I mean, doing your dream, playing football at Stanford and studying at Stanford, but that's going to fade away,
right?
And sports are going to fade away. And who knows, maybe the Lord blesses you and you have some amazing professional career. Chances are not likely, but it can happen, but that fades away too. But what doesn't fade away is those lessons or your relationship with the Lord that if you learn those lessons now of your identity being a child of God as opposed to something that'll fade away, it saves a lot of pain on the back end. So tell me how you handle some of the temptations there. I know while I was playing football at San Diego State, everything was available.
Right.
Alcohol, drugs, ladies, all kinds of stuff.
Right.
And at that time, San Diego State, in 1990, my freshman year, Diego, was voted by Playboy the #1 party school in the nation.
Ay, ay, ay.
So there was a lot of partying available. And so how do you balance all those temptations of all those things with being a guy committed to living for God?
Right. Well, first and foremost, I'm busy. Like, I took a lot of classes. This last quarter before the end of my freshman year, I had 20 units. So I was staying pretty busy. And I've always been a guy who'd rather kind of be by himself and doing things he likes rather than to go out and do things. That's just kind of how I'm built. So in terms of like drugs and parties, that's never been a huge temptation in my life. Certainly being at college was a little different because it's so much more accessible. It's not like, hey, Dad and Mom, can I go to this party? It's if I want to go, I just have to step out of my dorm and go over there. So I think in terms of that's just first and foremost. It's not a huge issue in terms of the partying and the drugs. But the few parties that I have attended, usually I'm just there to kind of make sure my guys are doing okay. And like for one of the parties, I served as what's called a host. And that was the guys who they entrust in taking players who are visiting the campus and taking them to a party. So it was making sure that kid, stays safe, make sure you get him there safely, you get him home safely. Another component is, having guys either at school or guys at home who I can check in with. I have like 2 or 3 pretty close buddies who I check in with pretty often, tell them how I'm doing in life, tell them what I'm struggling with, and having them kind of as accountability partners to know that, hey, I messed up here, right? I messed up here, or I'm struggling with this, or even if it's just like I miss my family, like it's someone you can go to and tell them what's happening, because it's really difficult to go through certain things or to be struggling with certain things and not be able to tell people.
Yeah.
So in college, one of the things I was struggling with first is I felt like I was on my own. Just I don't have too many friends there because I'm brand new. Showed up a little late as a preferred walk-on. My report date was almost like a month later than everyone else, so they were kind of all in go mode, and I was just figuring it out along the way. Not a big partier, so I didn't hang out with too many guys at parties just because it was new to me. So it was tough being there by myself for a long time. So I had to tell my buddies, like, hey, I'm struggling. Like, I'm by myself. I just need someone to talk to. I need someone to keep updated, and just to tell them, like, I want you guys to keep me accountable, and I want to be able to keep you guys accountable too. But I think those are kind of the 2 big things where, one, I'm built a little different, so in terms of like having trouble going out and doing stuff, it's never been that big of an issue, but it's really just staying, having people who can hold you accountable, especially for me. So those are kind of the 2 things that come to mind first.
Do you feel you're missing out on like all this fun opportunity that those things provide, or do you feel like, nah, it's this decision, this is the much better decision? Like, what goes through your mind as you're not engaging in some of those things?
Right. Well, I've tried to find more of a happy medium as of late, because I can still go there and have fun and hang out with my guys and not do all the same thing that everyone else at the party is doing. But at first I was like, yeah, I'm missing out. Everybody I know is there. I'm alone playing Star Wars Battlefront, like on a Friday night, like
Nerd.
just there, like, oh, I got 100 kills.
I want to be Han Solo tonight. Like, yeah, so you put the Solo in Han Solo.
Oh gosh. But yeah, so at first it was just like I felt like I was missing out on so much.
Yeah.
And then I just thought about it more, and just I'm definitely missing out on spending the quality times with my guys who are there.
Yeah.
That's why I try to find more of a happy medium, like I'm saying now, where I can go and I can hang out. I just don't have to do the same thing. Not necessarily that my teammates are doing, but everyone at the party is doing. So yeah, I was just trying to find a balance. I don't think, in terms of not doing drugs and engaging in drinking alcohol and stuff like that, I know I'm not missing anything, because I've always been a guy who likes being in control. I like I like being able to determine what I'm doing. So I think the use of alcohol and drugs and stuff like that is something that takes away from that. So that's always intrinsically been something that I've had, like, what's what I'm looking for? Like, I've had reservations against that automatically, just because I don't know how I'd feel, I don't know how I'd act, and that makes me very nervous. But like I said, try to find like a healthy medium where now I can go and hang out with guys. I'll bring my Switch. I don't know if you guys know what a Nintendo Switch is, but it's like a little portable gaming device. One of my favorite games on there is Smash Bros. And Mario Party. So I'll bring that to parties just to kind of provide an alternative for guys who are like me, who don't necessarily want to drink or smoke, but would still want to be there with other people. So that's something I've done a lot as of late. That's been pretty fun, and it's nicer than just being by yourself, but it's also nicer than just doing exactly what everyone else is doing.
I used a similar tactic, Diego. Let's go back to 1990.
Yeah.
the Game Boy was released.
Yeah.
And I used to take
Tetris.
the Game Boy everywhere, and I used to play Tetris. And I'm still awesome at Tetris. But so much where the guys would call me Game Boy. They're out drinking and partying in the hotel rooms, and I'm there on my Game Boy working on level 9.5 with Tetris. But yeah, it was a good tool to kind of let me be engaged, because you don't want to isolate.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, but certainly it gave me an activity to do while other stuff was going on.
Right.
Keep me engaged in something that was pretty benign.
Right.
And fun. And frankly, I think I could go pro at Tetris. Honestly, I think I'm one of the at least top 1% Tetris players in the world.
Because you've been playing, what, like 20, 25 years?
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, my dad has like an super old Game Boy that sits on his nightstand. Also finds its way into the bathroom sometimes. So we won't see him for like an hour at a time. And I just hear da 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 da. I'm like, oh, there he is. That's where he's at. So.
Hey, Jefferson, you know where I got the Tetris from? When I was a teacher over 20 years ago, this kid would bring in his Game Boy, and I loved this Game Boy that I had when I was in college football, but I lost it. And I told him, look, stop playing the Game Boy, and if you bring it in again, I'm going to take it from you. And I was just hoping and praying he'd bring it in again. And the kid brought it in again, and I took it from him. And I gave him his tongue lashing. How dare you disrespect me as a teacher to bring this nonsense in the class? I'm going to need to take this from you, right? And I took it from him, and about 2 weeks into it, he's like, yo, Mr. P, can I get my Game Boy back? And I was like, can I be honest with you? I want that Game Boy. He said, that's cool, Mr. P, just keep it. So I've had the Game Boy for about 25 years. Diego, what would you tell young people, either in college or high school, aspiring to accomplish their dream and wanting to know, is it worth it do I have to trade in my faith for chasing my dream, and how do I achieve it? And how do you what would you tell a 9th grade, 10th grade Diego from the position you're in right now? Look into that camera and kind of tell it with the peeps.
I'd say just you don't need to change your core values to chase the things that you want to chase, because if your core values align with the things that you want to chase, then it's going to happen for you. And if it doesn't, then it wasn't meant to be. But, you know, I didn't have to sacrifice my faith to, you know, chase my dreams to play football. In fact, I think they worked very well together to kind of get me to the point where I wanted to be. So just because, I mean, at the time, I was a super nerdy kid, you know, was very proud of my academic success, never got to be in high school, that was always my goal. I didn't have to give that up to want to be a football player. I didn't have to look like the stereotypical jock. I didn't have to only care about sports, you know, to also want to play at the Division I level. So just because two things don't necessarily seem like they coincide, it doesn't mean you have to give up being this to be this. Yeah. So I would just tell myself, like, you know, you don't have to change who you are to do what you want to do. In terms of like my personality, of course, you can always change to be a better person. You can grow, but you don't have to give up your core values and beliefs to chase the things you want to chase.
Yeah. Well, Diego, I really appreciate you taking time to come.
Of course, yeah.
I hope you know how proud I am of you.
Thanks,
and
sir.
I love you. And you are a huge blessing to me, your mom, your siblings, and to a lot of people. Stay strong in the Lord and keep chasing your dreams. You guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to say a couple thank yous to Christian Podcast Central for being a partner with us. Check them out. Go to their website. You'll find a lot of great content. If you enjoyed this show, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. You'll get every show there as well, as well as some behind the scenes things. So subscribe. Be a part of what God is doing here. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and tune in next week for another great guest and episode here in the Yard.